What's up, sons? It's Blind Run with Son of a Tech once again, and it's your favorite time of the week. It's time for the 12th episode of Mining Rig Wars. Last week's episode was 11, and I'm pre-recording this, so I'll post the winner from last week in the description below. Also in the description below, you can go ahead and click the submit button to submit your rig for a chance to win some sweet BTC. If you're interested in joining the community, there will also be a link for Discord down there, and don't forget to mine to our pools at coins.sonofatech.com. Without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. Welcome back. So the first rig is going to be called Fantastic Four. So Rig A, and the owner is Mining to You. He's featuring 4 Pentium G3930s, 3 Gigabyte H110 motherboards, and 1 MSI Z170 Gaming M5 motherboard. He has 6 ASUS NVIDIA GTX 1066 gigabytes, 7 MSI GTX 1066 gigabytes, 7 EVGA GTX 1066 gigabytes, 2 Zotac NVIDIA GTX 1066 gigabytes, and 5 EVGA 850 watt power supplies. All 4 of these rigs are featuring a single stick of Ballistic Sport 4 gigabytes of memory. Total hash rate is 5,062 solutions a second. And these rigs are getting bigger and bigger, boys. This one's gonna go back a little bit to the norm of a single rig setup. However, it's done very well. I really like the case and everything else. It's Rig B by ASUS, and it's called Wind Tunnel. It's featuring a Gigabyte GA990FX UD3 motherboard with the AMD Phenom 2 X4 945. That's the old AM3 Plus chipset. And it's got the Vengeance Corsair DDR3 and 2 sticks of 4 gigabytes at 8 gigabytes total, and the OCZ 120 gigabyte SSD with a RAID Max RX 1000 power supply, all of the necessary extensions, and is actually running, what is this, 6 cards total on this motherboard. So if you guys are looking for a 6-card rig and you have an old AM3 Plus chip laying around, this motherboard apparently will run 6 cards, so that's always good to note stuff like that. He's got a single ASUS RADEON STRIX RX 480 8 gigabyte version, a single ASUS GeForce STRIX GTX 1070 8 gigabyte version, and 4 gigabyte Aorus Radeon RX 580 8 gigabyte versions. Total hash rate is 180 mega hash a second. Rig C is going to be LMAO, or laughing my off, and apparently YouTube will demonetize me now if I say too many words like that. I don't know. We'll save them for the stream. And this rig is by Jesse with 20 GTX 1070s, 4 ASUS dual GeForce GTX 1070s, 8 GTX 1070 minis from Zotac, 8 Galax GeForce GTX 1070 EX editions, 2 ASUS Z270 motherboards, 1 MSI Z970 Gaming M3 motherboard, 1 Corsair 1000 watt power supply, and 2 Silverstone 1300 watt power supplies. No hash rate was provided, but I can tell you that's probably a pretty beastly rig right there. Next we have Rig D, called Compact Miner by Dave, featuring the ASUS Prime Z270 motherboard, 4 gigs of RAM, an Intel i3-6100 processor, 120 gigabyte SSD from Kingston, and a 1000 watt EVGA G3 PSU, with a total of 8 PNY 1063 gigabyte cards, the XLR8 versions. Total hash rate is 184 mega hash a second, and it doubles as a laser engraver for his laser engraving work. So that's pretty neat. I like that. Finally, we have Rig E, the Hot End by the YouTuber The Hot End. And if you want to check him out, I'll leave the links to his channel in the description below. He's a very nice guy. I've had the honor of chatting with him multiple times across different social networking platforms. If you want to chat with me, you can always hit me up, of course, on Twitter, Facebook, etc. All the links are in the description. Without further ado, let's talk about the massive amount of rigs he has, because he has, I believe, 3 of them right here. The first one has 4 GTX 1066 gigabyte cards and 2 EVGA 1066 gigabyte cards. The first 4, or the former, are actual mining edition cards with 8 gigabytes of HyperX memory, a G3930 proc, and a 240 gigabyte SSD with the ASRock BTC Plus Pro motherboard. The power supply for this one is 1600 watts. And moving on to rig 2, he has 6 Colorful GTX 1078 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes of HyperX memory, another 240 gigabyte SSD with the G3930 once again. Another 1600 watt power supply, but the motherboard's a little bit different here with the BioStar TB250 BTC. Finally, it looks like an old repurposed rig is what he's got for our third and final rig from his farm, and he's got an i7-950 on the Gigabyte U3A motherboard with 16 gigabytes of HyperX memory, 240 gigabyte SSD, 3 EVGA GTX 1060s, the 6 gigabyte versions, and a 1600 watt power supply once again. The total hash rate I didn't actually get from him, but you can find more details on his YouTube. So wrapping things up, Blind Run's opinion time. Rig A, the Fantastic 4, well, there are 4 there and it is pretty fantastic. So there's not much I can say negative about this rig. I love that he's only using 4 gigabytes of memory per rig. That's just what I'm always looking for. He's using only the same style of cards, so only NVIDIA cards, all within the same Pascal lineup, so compatibility will be good there. It's all around just going to be a solid rig. I'm super impressed with it. The stack is nice, the framing is good, and everything looks pretty clean. Of course, you could clean up the cable management some, but we could all do that a little bit on our mining rigs. Rig B doesn't have any cable management issues because everything's in a slick black case, and I mean, I'm digging it. I think it's pretty neat. I would have liked to get some interior pictures that we didn't get, so negative points for that there, Jesus. That's bothersome. But overall, I think that for what it is, the biggest note here obviously is that the 990FX motherboard that he got from Gigabyte sports up to 6 cards with PCI extensions. So thanks for sharing, because it means a lot for us to learn these types of things when we're building rigs, especially when we're talking about being able to repurpose old equipment that we have or may have found in the scrapyard or whatever. It's always good to get that info out there for people. Rig C from Jesse is going to be another rig that just pretty much meets all of the standards that I would consider for a mining rig or a mining farm now, I guess we're turning into. Because it's hard to say, oh, well, submit each one separately, because a lot of people are doing these rigs where you have multiple motherboards and multiple rigs in a single setup. So how are you really going to split this up? It is a pretty basic shelving setup that is done really well. It's pretty clean until you get up to the top and see, you know, the spider web. But we'll ignore that. We'll ignore that right now. The only issues that I have here is missing information. If you could let us know in the comment section what kind of hash rates you're getting, either mega hash a second on something like ET hash or solutions a second. Just let us know what you're getting and let me know what memory you're running. Are you running 4 gig sticks in both of these? Because I might take some points off for the 8 gig sticks. For Rig D, the compact miner, I mean, from Dave here, it's an interesting setup because it's doubled purpose as a laser engraver, so I guess I have to be lenient on the amount of memory, especially since he specified that he needed the extra memory for the laser engraving applications that he's running. So you get away with it, but I need to know what application that is before I can trust you. That's what I'm gonna say. And finally, the hot end. Like I said, the hot end is a fellow YouTuber. Much respect, much props. Definitely go check him out. He's been building for a while now, and he seems to get it down pretty rock solid. He's using too much RAM on most of these builds, so I mean, min-max here, min-max. I get that most of them are repurposes as you are a tech tuber, so I get that, but at the same time, go ahead and pull the sticks out, find other uses for them, split some of those up across the rigs that you currently have, and just try to min-max. I mean, that's all I can really say there, min-max. Because we want better ROI. And even though memory probably doesn't take that much power, even if it takes any at all, I mean, you could look at it from that aspect. You're just hurting yourself by taking too much extra power. Minuscule, probably irrelevant, but I'm gonna do my marks off there. My marks off there for fun. Also, I really did enjoy the i7-950 build, although it only has 3 cards. So let us know if 3 cards is the max and that's the reason you have only 3 cards in there, or if you can expand that further and if it works, because that's always, like I said earlier, good information for the community. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And as always, I will see you next Tuesday.